For the BIS, this is another stage in our exploration of how advanced technology could deliver a more innovative and efficient financial system. I am encouraged by our work in this area. We have learned many valuable lessons and drawn some striking analytical insights. But at the end of the day, we at the BIS are mostly economists and finance specialists. To really understand how to apply technology, we need to bring technologists fully into the conversation. That is what Nandan and I have sought to do. We aim to bring together the economic and financial perspectives of me and my colleagues at the BIS with the technological know-how of Nandan and his team. And in doing so, to articulate a vision for the future financial system that unites a robust economic and financial foundation with state-of-the-art technology. In particular, we sought to sketch a blueprint of the economic and technological architecture for a future financial system and show how we could turn it into reality. Nandan and I come from different worlds. I wouldn't go so far as to say that economists and technologists speak different languages, but we have our own distinct dialects. At times there was dissonance in views and perspectives. This is healthy. If we don't start the dialogue between economists and technologists, it is hard to see how useful financial innovation can really move forward. We have labeled our vision for the future financial system the Finternet. I will leave it to Nandan to expand on it and explain the more technical aspects. But let me provide a broad overview. The Finternet is a vision of multiple financial ecosystems that connect with each other, much like the Internet. It aims to empower individuals and businesses by placing them at the center of their financial lives. The application of technology has meant that tasks that were once expensive and time-consuming, like making an overseas phone call or booking an hotel room in an unfamiliar city, can now be done with the flick of a finger. The Finternet aims to bring the same kind of progress to financial services. We foresee a system in which individuals and businesses could transfer any financial assets they like in any amount at any time using any device to anyone else anywhere in the world. Financial transactions would be cheap, secure, and near instantaneous, and they would be available to anyone. This is particularly important for emerging and developing economies. Despite many noteworthy initiatives to bolster financial inclusion, spearheaded by sovereign authorities, central banks, multilateral financial organizations, including and even the United Nations, large gaps in access to financial services between advanced economies on the one hand and emerging market economies and LDCs on the other still exist. As you walk down the line of the complexity of financial transactions and instruments, it is striking how many activities are just not available in many of these countries, particularly to those living in remote areas or at the bottom of the income distribution. And even when residents can access financial services, high transaction costs and slow services are pervasive. These reflect a number of structural deficiencies, including a lack of competition, inadequate public infrastructure, and bottlenecks induced by legacy systems that have not kept pace with the capacity needs of a modern economy. Our starting point was the observation that recent years have seen a flowering of innovation in financial technology. This has led to some important breakthroughs. Programmable ledgers are one example. These digital platforms combine the record-keeping functions of traditional databases used to track the ownership of financial assets with the rules and governance arrangements needed to update the databases. These ledgers enable smart contracts, self-executing applications that can trigger an action, for example, the sale of an asset if a pre-specified condition is met, and composability, the ability to bundle many of these automated transactions together. Tokenization is another example. Tokens are the digital assets that exist on programmable ledgers. They contain both the information necessary to uniquely identify the assets and their owners, and the rules and logic governing their use. And more advances could soon arrive. I am particularly encouraged by the transformative potential of artificial intelligence for the financial sector.
Walk you through the idea of the Finternet, the financial internet, and later on I'll explain why we think of it as the financial internet, which we think is really about empowering individuals and businesses at the center of the financial life. Now, just to set a few things, in India, for example, India was the most unbanked country, and we managed to accelerate banking penetration and did financial inclusion in 9 years, what would have taken 47 years by traditional means. Built a KYC system that does 16 billion transactions to open bank accounts and mobile phones, brought down the costs. Today, 250 million people have their digital records in their phones, in their lockers. We have a payment system which does 13 billion transactions a month, and Roberto has done a fantastic job in Brazil with Pix, which has also transformed Brazilian payments. And we have always thought about technology as requiring it to be universal. In other words, technology should be for people, rich people who have smartphones, people who have feature phones, people who don't have phones. So everything we do should be done with universality in mind. So that's been the broad thinking that we've had historically. And we have seen, whether it's in India or Brazil or anywhere else, that if there's strong regulatory push, if there is political will, if there's the right technology, we can make things happen. So it's with that background of having been participating in making things happen that we have done this paper. So this paper is not just a theoretical paper, it's actually a plan of action, a call for action, and we look forward to working with all of you on that. Now, what is it about the financial internet? What are we trying to do? First, we are trying to think of a financial system which puts the user at the center of it. In other words, whether it's an individual or a business, whether it's retail or wholesale, the financial system should be designed with the user in mind. And often that doesn't happen. Second, we want to create a unified approach to the financial system. In other words, this should work in all countries. This should work in all sectors. This should work for all asset classes. It could be bonds, it could be cash, it could be shares, it could be mutual funds, ETFs, gold. I don't know if I can say this in front of central bankers, it could be Bitcoin. Anyway, so the point is that it is essentially neutral or agnostic to the asset classes. It can also be done over time. This is not a big bang approach where we get up in the morning when we are in this beautiful new world. This could take years to roll out. Different countries, based on their appetite for change, will do it differently. Different sectors will do it differently. The design that we have proposed is completely asynchronous, which allows different people to come onto this thinking at different times, which is the way it should be. And maybe over a few years, it'll all happen. And a lot of focus is how do we design from the beginning to reduce loss, fraud, and actions of bad actors, which is a common phenomenon today in the financial sector. Now, this is also meant for different kinds of asset. They could be assets that users have their entire control over, which are bilateral transactions between two buyers and sellers, where there's no regulation or there's no other, you're buying and selling something that you have, like an NFT or something, or a personal car or something like that. Then you have assets that are attested by different kinds of attestations, verifiers, guarantors, and so on. Then you have registered assets, assets like cars that are registered in the vehicles database, or land, which is a land titling database. And then finally, you have regulated assets. This could be money, securities, and so on. The architecture we are proposing covers all these types of assets, whether they are user assets that are bilateral OTC kind of assets, or whether they are highly regulated assets. So the same architecture is for all of them.